Alright Reds, Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here, and this is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. Think back to when you first fell in love with sports. Was it scoring that goal in football, or maybe it was running faster, hitting harder, and playing smarter than you ever had before? As kids, every game was a new challenge, a new chance to learn and to grow. But what about as adults? Do we still push our limits, learn new strategies, or has the routine of life sidelined our passion? Just like a skilled football coach can transform a football team, therapy can re-energize and refocus your life's goals. Whether you're aiming to regain your former athletic glory or simply want to find joy in your weekend league, BetterHelp is here to support your mental fitness. With BetterHelp's online therapy, you're getting more than just advice. You're gaining strategies to manage stress, enhance focus, and set goals, just like in sports. It's convenient, flexible, and tailored to fit into your training schedule, however packed it might be. Signing up is as simple as lacing up your boots. Fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with one of over 5,000 therapists in the UK. And if you need to switch tactics, changing therapists is easy and free. Rediscover your passion for the game with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/index today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/index. It's time to play your best game yet. BetterHelp, because everyone deserves to be at the top of their game.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds closer to kickoff. Stock up now. Bengals game day is so close, you can almost taste it. Bengals watching. Better with Pepsi.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to anfieldindexpro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC and your daily reminder that the Reds are top of the league. Today is Tuesday the 8th of October, and I suppose the big bits of news are Gerald Quansah has signed a new contract with the club, which is great news, and that there is more and more hype around the possibility of Trent leaving the club and going to Real Madrid. And as things currently stand, it kind of appears like Trent is the one of the three, Virgil, Mo and Trent, who's most likely to leave. And obviously talked about a bit yesterday the possibility of him going to Real Madrid. And This Is Anfield have a piece entitled Trent Alexander-Arnold, Real Madrid, and Risking Your Liverpool Legacy. So, look, if we look at it, there's two players who quite famously have left Liverpool and joined Real Madrid, two homegrown academy players. There's others, like obviously Alonso went there, Arbeloa went there, and they both did well. But, I mean, they were not homegrown Liverpool players. They were not players that we brought through our academy. Arbeloa was very good. Alonso was great. It was always likely that they'd go back to Spain at some point. The two I'm talking about are Michael Owen and Steve McManaman. So Owen is the more recent one. He left in 2005. In 2004. He had run down his contract and it was to run out in 2005. And there was obviously quite a lot of bitterness around the time that Michael Owen left. Rafa had come in. It was seen as a new start for Liverpool. It was seen as this opportunity to potentially build a team around Michael Owen and Steven Gerrard that could go on and win major honours, because Rafa was coming in having won 2 La Liga titles and the UEFA Cup. And it was hoped that maybe this will spark Michael Owen into signing a new contract. Now, obviously, he'd had injuries before this. He wasn't the same player as he had been when he first broke through. It's often forgotten just how incredible Michael Owen was when he broke into the team. Michael Owen at 17, 18 was every bit the prospect that Kylian Mbappe was at the same age. The problem was his hamstring exploded quite early in his career. And then he was dogged by other injuries, hamstring injuries and ankle injury. Molly doesn't like Michael Owen, but it is what it is. He was dogged by injuries early in his career, and they slowed him down, and they cost him some of his burst, some of that explosiveness, which is fine. It happens. But I do think people have forgotten just how good he was. I really do. And when you look at the goal numbers, for full seasons, he basically played 7 full seasons with us. 23 and 44, 23 and 40, 12 and 30. That's the year he missed a bunch of games and was recovering from the nasty injury, the hamstring tendon. 24 in 46, 28 in 43, 28 and 54, 19 and 38. That last season also dogged by injuries. But you notice, especially in the league, he only gets the first season, 36 games. The next season, 30 games. The hamstring goes at the end of that season. And then 02-03, 35 games. That's in the league. They're the only years he manages 30 games. But he was such a clever player that he started to alter his game, and he stopped relying as much on his pace. It was there when he needed it, but it wasn't that force of nature that it had been when he first came into the team. But he's still really, really good, and we couldn't tie him down to a contract for whatever reason. Maybe ambition, maybe the club being tight. It could be either. Or the club's lack of ambition. So he leaves, and he goes for 8 million, which is pathetic for the player he was, even post-injury. Like, he won his Ballon d'Or post-injury, post-tendon injury. He was such a special goal scorer. And while those numbers might not seem exceptional based on today's standards, where you've got the likes of Erling Haaland and Mo and Harry Kane, who've done what they've done in the Premier League, back then, these were exceptional numbers. Like, they really were exceptional numbers. You're talking about a guy that had won the Premier League's Golden Boot twice. He was PFA Young Player of the Year, obviously Ballon d'Or winner, World Soccer Player of the Year, ESM Team of the Year, Ons d'Argent. He was ridiculously good. And we got 8 million for him, and Antonio Nunes, who I think they valued at about 2 million. Like, it was pennies. And that's what upset a lot of people, is what a bad deal we got. That was the club's fault. That wasn't Owen's fault. He didn't set the price. He didn't negotiate with Real. The club did, and they made a mess of the deal. And then this narrative began that, oh, he flopped at Real. Well, he didn't really. He was actually quite good for Real. And when you look at the numbers, he scored 16 goals in 54 games, which isn't great, but when you look at how many minutes he played, he was actually very, very effective for them coming off the bench. But Real decided they were going to sell him and make a big profit on him, which is probably the reason they bought him to begin with, was just to flip him. So he goes to Newcastle because we decide not to buy him, because I think Rafa was probably a bit stubborn. he starts off really well at Newcastle, then he gets injured, then he misses basically a year and a half. It was a good thing we didn't sign him. But Real didn't damage his legacy. The way he left damaged his legacy, but the way he left was largely the club's fault. But he's never given the love that other academy players are given. And part of that is because he was always sort of England's Michael Owen. But that's because he was so good for England at such a young age that England kind of co-opted him into being theirs. And Liverpool fans didn't feel the same affection for him as they did for, say, Robbie Fowler. And then you look at McManaman, and nobody would suggest he didn't do brilliantly at Real Madrid. He won 2 La Liga titles and 2 European Cups. He went there, he transformed his game in a lot of ways, went from being that sort of free-running number 10 who could play wide, could play to the middle, whatever you need them to do, to playing in a deeper central midfield role, and was outstanding for Real in helping them win 2 La Liga titles and 2 European Cups. And the reason people have a tough time with McManaman, there's 2 reasons really. 1, he's very annoying. And 2, he left on a free. But people forget that the year before he left, the club tried to sell him. The summer of 98, could have been the January of 99, either one of those windows, the club tried to sell him to Barcelona without telling him that this is what they were going to do, because he had a year left in his deal, and the club didn't want to pay him what he was worth. And Steve McManaman in the 90s was by far our best player, and for a couple of seasons was the best player in the league. And I went through this last week, and I went over Roy Evans' birthday thing. It might have been the week before. Just how good that Liverpool team actually was, top 4 every year, just lacking a couple of pieces. But every team knew if you stop McManaman, you'll stop Liverpool. As good as the likes of Fowler were, McManaman was the key to all of it. And if teams could take him out of the game by man-marking and putting 2 on him, knowing that there's a weak link somewhere in Liverpool, so there's someone somewhere where there's somebody you don't need to mark, so throw that guy on McManaman as well, and just completely stop Liverpool. That's how good he was. There was very few players getting man-marked as frequently as he was back then. There was very few people whose team was as heliocentric around them from an attacking point of view as we were with him. But he was incredible for us. And yet, when I hear people talk about all-time great Liverpool players, I don't hear his name brought up. And it's really not fair, because he is one of the best players to ever play for the club. He's one of the best, and Owen's one of the best, and neither of them get the admiration and the love that they deserve for what they did while playing for the club. Now, Owen blotted his copybook by going to United. Nobody would deny that. But ultimately, he was great for us. And McManaman was incredible for us. But their legacies are tarnished. It's not because of Real Madrid. It's because of how they left. It wouldn't have mattered where they go. And with McManaman, again, it's because he's quite annoying. Owen's also quite annoying, and he played for United. Trent doesn't come across as being annoying, and I don't think you'd see Trent become a pundit who's as devoid of personality as Owen and McManaman are. I also don't think there's any risk of Trent ever going and playing for United. If Trent leaves, it will be the fact that he's run his contract down. It won't be the fact that he's going to Real Madrid. It will be the contract thing. That's what will grind people's gears. It's not going to be if he goes to Real, because why wouldn't he go to Real? They're the number 1 club in the world, and it's a gap to number 2. They're the biggest, the most successful, the most ambitious, the most powerful. And even with these Middle Eastern nations buying clubs, they're never going to build what Real Madrid have. And you can say, well, Real were built by the Spanish government, they were built by Franco, and fair. But ultimately, the Franco's gone a long time, and look what they've done. Look what they've done. Look what they continue to do.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
I'm Carol from Sunbury, Ohio. I'm a Republican, but I don't care who does the job as long as the job gets done. That's why I like Sherrod Brown. He stood up to both parties on China and worked with Republicans to fight fentanyl because Sherrod fights for Ohio. That's leadership.
Paid for by friends of Sherrod Brown.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Trent will go into the basket with McManaman and Owen. Now, he'll be more fondly remembered because he won a league title and a European Cup. Owen's part in the treble of 01 is largely ignored, which is very, very upsetting because he was incredible that year. Absolutely incredible, which is why he won the Ballon d'Or. McManaman didn't win major honours with Liverpool outside of domestic cups. He won the FA Cup in 91-92. He was a youngster in that team. And then he had the McManaman final in the League Cup in 95. But he didn't have the same type of success. Owen had success, but not the same type of success. Owen won the FA Cup, 2 League Cups, UEFA Cup and the European Super Cup. But Trent won the league. And he won the Champions League. So he'll always be more fondly remembered for that and for the team he was part of. But he will be viewed the same way. It will be viewed as a bad act. And he won't have the same type of excuse that they had. They could both point to the team around them and the club around them and say, we lack ambition. We're not competing for major honours. I'm being forced to carry players that are not nearly good enough to be playing with me. We have very little help here. Owen had Gerrard. McManaman had Fowler. And then Owen. But after that, there wasn't a ton of genuine high-level quality in the way you look at the Liverpool team now. You've got Trent, but you've also got Virgil, you've got Alisson, you've got Mo, all world-class. All world-class. Alexis, I think he's borderline world-class. Ibu, borderline world-class. Just needs to stay fit. They've got a lot more, Trent has a lot more talent around him now. He's got a team more capable of playing for the big honours than Owen or McManaman ever had. So he doesn't have that same excuse. If he wanted to go, he should have told the club at the start of the summer and allowed them to get a fee for him. Because while you'd still be losing him, it'd be shitty from a fan point of view. At least he'd be bringing in money that could be reinvested in replacing him rather than having to find the money to replace him because he's left for nothing. And the other bit of news that's going around, or the other rumour that's going around, suggests that Liverpool hold interest in Omar Marmoush, the Egyptian forward at Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, this one's been running for a while. It's probably been 18 months since the Marmoush rumours started up. Now, I think part of that is that Schmadtke signed him for Wolfsburg. And he moved from Wolfsburg to Eintracht in the summer of 2023. I think that's kind of when the rumours began. Before he joined Eintracht, I think that's where the rumours started, because Schmadtke had signed him. Now, he did okay with Wolfsburg, but to be clear, he was there 4 years and only had 1 year as a starter. He had a year on loan with St. Pauli in the second division, a year on loan with Stuttgart, where he was okay. And then he had a decent year with Wolfsburg in 22-23, scored 6 goals in 36 games. He joins Eintracht and he's done really well since going there. 17-41 last season, 9-9 this season. The one thing I would say is that there have been other forward players that have done incredibly well at Eintracht and not produced away from Eintracht. And I give 3 examples. So the first one I'd look at is Sebastian Haller, who had that brilliant season in 18-19 and then joined West Ham and just never adapted to the Premier League. Now, he went on and did really well with Ajax. He's done okay with Dortmund, obviously had to deal with a horrible health issue. But he hasn't lived up to the same level he showed at Eintracht. Luka Jovic is another one. He was in that same team as Haller, that 18-19 season. He scores 27 in 48. Goes to Real Madrid. It's pretty much a disaster. Had a good season with Fiorentina in 22-23. He's been okay for Milan since joining them. And then Daichi Kamada, who I really like. I think he's a very good player. He did really well with Eintracht. But he didn't play nearly as well for Lazio last year. You look at his numbers at Eintracht. In 19-20, scores 10 and 48 as an attacking midfielder. 22-23 plays more in the forward line. 16 in 47. Goes to Lazio, 2 in 38. He hasn't made a great start at Palace. He's currently not in their team. He is a good player, but it just seems like there's something in the air at Eintracht where players overperform a little bit. So I'd want to see Marmoush carry on this form, at least for the rest of this season, before you really consider making a move. He is clearly a very good player. His movement's excellent. His finishing is very, very sharp. Very much admire his finishing. He's an intelligent player, and he's a versatile player as well. He can play through the middle. He can play off both wings. My assumption is we'd be looking at him to play off the left. I don't think he's an Arne slot number 9. Like, you look at him at the moment, he's playing Hugo Ekitike up front. Ekitike is that kind of bigger hold-up type player who can bring others into the game, and Marmoush makes the runs kind of all angles and in behind, and that's very, very good. But I assume he'd play off the left for us. Now, I think he would absolutely, if this form is real, I think he'd get a bunch of chances coming in off the left with Mo playmaking from the right. He's 25. He'll turn 26 in February. So he is right in the sweet spot of when we do like to buy forward players. He hasn't had an easy path in football. He's had quite an unusual career. Like, he comes through at Wadi Degla in Egypt, plays there for a year, moves to Germany, spends a year in the reserve team, couple of years out on loan, Then he gets his opportunity. Actually spent... Wait, maybe Schalke didn't buy him. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought he did. No, he didn't. Schalke, well, unless Schalke was there 6 years, I don't think he was. Jörg Schmadtke, how long were you at Wolfsburg? No, he was actually there a year before Schmadtke. Schmadtke came in 2018. He joined Wolfsburg sort of, not necessarily their academy, but their B squad in 2017. So in 6 years at Wolfsburg, he only had one season in the first team. Not ideal, but some players are a slow burn. Some players take time. He did well at St. Pauli. He did well with Wolfsburg. He's done really well with Eintracht. I would be interested in seeing how he would work in our team. I'd be very curious to see what the price would be. It's always hard to judge on players coming out of the Bundesliga. What's his contract situation? 2027. So we'll have 2 years left after this one. So again, that does sort of fit with what we tend to look at. It's not just goals either. He does create. Along with his 9 goals this season, he's got 6 assists. So that's promising. Shows he can do plenty in the build-up as well. He's playing in abundance of positions. He plays as the 9. He plays off the 9 with Ekitike. He plays in a 2. Plays as a 10 behind Ekitike. He plays left wing, can play right wing when needed. Last season, 17 goals and 6 assists. It's pretty good. Season before, 6-1. That's the one season he has in the Wolfsburg first team. 3-5 the year before. That was the loan at Stuttgart. And then the season before is the loan at St. Pauli. And it's 8 goals, 3 assists. But obviously playing in the second division. But, we do like players that have had to graft for it. That is one thing that Michael Edwards has always sort of prioritised, is players that haven't had the smoothest path. Maybe they wanted a bit more. Maybe their heads don't get full of nonsense when they get that big deal. Price will be a big factor. That's without question. Transfer market has his current value at 22 million euro. I'd imagine you're looking at probably 45 as things currently stand come the end of the season with 2 years left. I think you're probably looking in the 45 million range. It all depends on who else comes in for him. Like, if it's other German clubs, if it's Italian clubs, if it's Spanish clubs who aren't Real Madrid, the price won't skyrocket. If it's Premier League clubs, that's where the price could start to go in a direction that we wouldn't be comfortable with, especially if it's the bigger Premier League clubs, your Arsenals, your Chelseas. Definitely one to watch, though. I definitely do think that's one to watch. I think he's one that could become a real target for us if he keeps up this form. Because while Diaz is good and Gakpo is good, they are both inconsistent. And it feels like if you could merge them into one player, you'd have what Arne is looking for. And maybe Marmoush is seen as being that player. Fabrizio Romano says Liverpool are really confident on contracts. I don't know if he knows anything, but we'll run with that. There's a piece on Jarrell Quansah on anfieldindex.com. There's also a piece on the future of our kits. Endo is potentially on his way in January. We'll see what happens. It's a piece about the contract situations. There is a piece about Jarrell Quansah, or there's a podcast about Jarrell Quansah, which is an interview about his new long-term contract. there is the Monday Lunchtime pod with Dave Davis and David Lynch, so check that out. And there is more to come during the week. If you haven't, go back and listen to the Minefield pod that dropped on Friday and listen to Under Pressure from last week. They're both very, very good. Right, that is going to do me for today. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.